I'm doing this and I never even wanted my picture taken.
Thank you
Okay,
so
here.
much for sitting down and talking to us.
You're gonna sit down there?
No, you sit where you are. One of the
Where do you want
things.
me to sit?
Right where you are.
Okay.
You're perfect. I found that story you were telling me about your father and mother.
Want me to
So
continue that?
I would. I'd like you, if you can, just if you even started again, in telling us where in Italy, what was going, the time, and it was like 18.
Okay,
You know.
it was before the 20th century, or
Yeah.
19, what is it?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, and he was very much in love with my mother.
Mm-hmm.
But there, in Italy, there was a little upper class, different classes, and she was upper class. And so my grandfather wouldn't allow it. So he came to the new country.
Came here to New Rochelle.
Yes, he ended up in New Rochelle. How, I don't know. See, because I was young when he passed away.
How old
And
were
this
you?
I gathered myself. How old I was?
Mhm.
13.
13 when your father passed away?
Both of them.
Mother and father?
Yes. And so I learned this on my own in different pieces, and their wedding picture, just
Yeah,
accumulation of things.
But what I found interesting is your father came here and started this big ice making business.
Yes, he did. And so he was really doing very well. He went there to pick up my mother. My grandfather said, you can't, my grandfather was really a tall, one of those men. And he said, you can't take her. Can't let you go alone. I can't let her go alone with you. So he said, if you want her, you have to take the whole family.
Which he did.
Which he did. He took that family plus her sister and her brother and her mother and father.
And where did they move to?
Pardon me?
Where did they go to?
New Rochelle.
So they
Because
all,
that's where the business was. And he had moved a huge house because he needed a lot of ground for the trucks, because he already had, I don't remember how many, I wouldn't remember, but just what they told me, about 5 or 6 trucks. And so he moved this house from another part of New Rochelle, moved it to this area of 6th Street where there weren't a lot of homes, and because he needed a yard in the back where he had built all the garages that he needed.
It sounds like he was quite a successful
Yeah.
businessman.
Yeah.
And so your parents married in New Rochelle.
I imagine so. I imagine so. Because I got that far, and I think it was New Rochelle. That's where I ended up in New Rochelle. And then they had all these children.
How many brothers and sisters did you have?
We were 6 altogether. But my mother took this other boy in because when she was pregnant with me, as I said, this man who's very distantly related was going to give the child away, a boy. And when he was born, we were less than 4 months apart. But she had so many kids already, and my sister took care of him mostly. I imagine, this is what they told me, I don't know. And we were extremely, extremely close, and that's how I got close to sports. We played everything, and I tried to copy everything he did. Roller skating, whatever he did, he jumped over things, I would jump over things.
So it sounds like it was a very happy childhood.
Was happy, yes, until I was 13.
Very
happy. And my mother got sick. She was sick for 3 days and passed away. She went to a private hospital, and the doctor had said earlier that she had a touch of sugar diabetes. But when she went to the hospital, the doctor was sick and the son took over. And she died during the night, so she died immediately. She wasn't sick more than 3 days. And my father was around. He was depressed. He'd go in the basement and all that. He'd stop at the cemetery every day. And then his brother got pneumonia, then he got pneumonia. And that's when around penicillin time. And I don't think he wanted to live anyway. No, he didn't.
He was so heartsick of your mother's death.
Right. So my brother was there with my sister-in-law, and they were leaving, and he was calling my mother's name, and he passed away. It's like he saw her. So that was only whatever.
Well, you told that story that when he first asked your mother to marry him in Italy, and the parents said, no, you don't have enough. He goes to the United States,
yes,
becomes very successful,
yes,
and still loves your mother so much, he goes back to Italy
yes.
to ask her to marry him. So obviously he loved her very,
he loved her.
very
You could
much.
tell that. You could tell that.
How traumatic it must have been for you at 13 to lose both parents.
Yeah. He sat there and watched her, and he would do anything for her, but they worked together.
Yeah.
She was used to making things up north. But see, she also went to, I don't know what you would call it, dress designing school and stuff, but she made all of our clothes, the boys and the girls.
Huh?
And I must have taken after her because I ended up doing the same thing. You know, so.
And you have a granddaughter who's quite artistic.
My granddaughter?
Stacy, very artistic, graphic art.
Oh, Stacy's very artistic. She's very,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, here it is from your it sounds like your mother too was.
Not me, but she's great.
So what happened to all the, did the family stay together, or did all the siblings, you did stay together? Who did you live
Oh,
with?
there were apartments in the building, so they all stayed together. And then he died a few months later, and I think I was the only one who was lost because they were on.
Well, 13 is such a vulnerable age. You know, it's like, you're not a baby, but you're not an adult either.
Well, we stayed there, and then I went to my aunt's lots of times. It was very close to my aunt, my mother's sister. And she would do anything for me and stuff. Well, she complimented me one day as I was getting older. She had to go have her will made. So she says, I want Mary to come with me. And I said, why? She said, because you won't tell anybody.
So you had a good sense that people could trust you.
Great childhood and sad at the same time.
Yeah, no, it is.
Very sad.
And so your character and personality had to be very much developed based on, I mean, all our personalities are developed based on our life experiences.
You're right.
And here, so when did you, how old were you? Well, from 13, you were living with your aunt, or she was.
Well,
now, when did you start? Did you start a career? Did you go to school?
What you have to remember is I was 13. There was such a difference in our ages with my sisters and brothers. My sisters used to go out at night. I would be home alone.
Yeah.
My brother, who's the closest to me, went to the boys' club, but he would be home like 9:15, and we always played games and cards, and we were extremely close up, and even when he was married, and very, very close. The families were close, because Johnny and I were like brothers and sisters.
And so, when did you wind up going to school or go to work? Did you both? So let's ask a question that is probably a very important one. When did you meet your husband?
When did I meet my husband?
Yeah.
My husband was always there, and I never liked him.
He lived in the neighborhood.
I didn't like him at all.
Was similar in
Well, he was in the
age?
same school as I was, but I didn't want anything to do with him.
Why not?
I didn't like him.
What made you not like him?
I didn't like him because he was like a ladies' man.
Oh, at what age?
High school? I don't know.
So he was
He
someone.
loved women, and the women loved him.
He must have been a good-looking kid. Was he
I
good
never
looking?
thought so.
Well, you didn't like him. If you don't like him, you're gonna make sure he doesn't look good. So, okay, so you initially don't like. Here it is. You don't like this man who you wind up. When did you begin to like him?
Well,
Well, you married him, so you had to like him at some time.
Well, not for, I tell you what, he asked me if I would go, we used to go on picnics, I had a lot of friends. I had a lot of girlfriends and, a lot of my friends, my girlfriend's parents were extremely good to me. And so, well, his brother used to come on the picnics with us, with just friends and stuff. And so he said to me one day, when am I going to be invited? I said, I'm not inviting you. He said, well, I want to come. I said, well, then you could come and stay with Helen. We don't stay with anybody. We just had a lot of fun. But I just said that because I don't want him to be with me.
Uh-huh. How old were you at this time?
How old was I?
About?
Maybe 18.
18.
I don't know. It was after the war, so you can't tell.
And how old was he? Similar in age?
3 years older.
So he was 21.
Yeah. Or older. I can't
Somewhere
tell.
around there. So with that said, when did you begin to
Well,
date?
right after that, because I lived in, my sister lived in Connecticut, Darien, Connecticut.
Mm-hmm.
And I lived in New Rochelle, and I used to go back and forth,
Mm-hmm.
But I also had a job in Connecticut. I worked for, Vogue Patterns,
Mm-hmm.
and I was with the designers.
Mm-hmm.
And so we went out, and he took me to, well, not in the beginning, but afterwards, because he felt, and he was right, we needed to talk. So we went to an outdoor movie or so, and we talked. We didn't watch the movie, we just talked a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to know him more, whatever. And we were married within 5 months.
So you got to see a side to him you never saw,
Well, yeah.
which you liked, obviously.
I had other boyfriends too, though,
Yeah. So okay, so he's 21 or so, and you're 18 when you get married? Or 22
I was
and 9?
25 when I got
Oh,
married.
you were 25, so a number of years had
Long time.
passed. So you were 25 and he was about 28.
Yeah. I didn't want to get married because I was having a good time anyway.
So you were
The
basically...
reason why I got married is because I wanted children.
Mhm. Which you wound up having 2 lovely children.
Well, that's okay. They were great children.
Yeah, yeah. So what did your husband do for a living?
Well, he worked for New Rochelle, but then he got rid of that, and he loved flowers and stuff, and that's what he did mostly.
Florist.
Yeah.
Did he have his own...
Well, no, he didn't want that. He wanted to just go and go to homes and still do that. That's what he wanted.
Oh, so was he basically selling flowers?
Yeah, he was a landscaper.
Oh, a landscaper?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he had a lot of homes here. I never thought he would do that here because I already had a nursery we were going to buy. But he didn't want that. I think it was ridiculous, but he didn't want that.
All right, so your husband was a landscaper. You were working still for Bow Patterns?
Well, I didn't because I got married. I
Oh, so you
moved to
stopped
New
working when you
Rochelle.
got married. So your
Moved
husband,
to New Rochelle.
and you were now living in New Rochelle.
Yeah.
The city that you were raised in, you were born in New
Yeah.
Rochelle.
Yeah.
And you're how old when you have your first child? How long were
I
you?
was 26.
26 years old.
I wanted a child right away, and I did.
Okay.
And so when we moved to New Rochelle, we couldn't find any rooms because it was right after the war. That was in 1950.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't find rooms, and I was in Connecticut, and he says he couldn't find anything. You had to share it with people. I'm a private person. I don't want to share anything like
Mm-hmm.
that. And so finally he found rooms up in the attic. But we fixed it up really cute. It looked like a little dollhouse.
Yeah, there's
We
a...
were all rinky Karens and all of that stuff. But then we had a baby, and then we moved to a larger apartment.
And what did you name your son?
Pardon me?
Was it a boy or a girl, your first
Girl.
child? And what was her name?
I named it Tonia.
Antonia.
Tonia, yeah. And so we, as I said, we moved to an apartment, and then we moved to the house for a little bit, and then not to the house. We moved to to the house, yes, because my sisters. Oh my God, I'm telling you all our business here. My sister's husband, they had whatever, and they separated. And my other sister called me up and said, Mary, come and stay with her, and I didn't want to. But you don't know Aunt Lou, right?
I did not know Aunt Lou.
You didn't know Aunt Lou?
No.
Oh, too bad. Aunt Lou was the first woman. She was about, I don't know, 16 or so older than I was.
That much older?
Yeah. Well, we were 7 kids.
Yeah.
6 kids. So.
Yeah.
And so I went over there, and I shouldn't have done it, which I knew I shouldn't have done it, because her husband came back, and you could not get rooms at that time. It was difficult.
Yeah, the housing
Very
shortage.
difficult. And so my sister Tony, her name was Antoinette, but she changed it to Tony. She said, you know what we'll do? She says, she had a beautiful ranch house in Darien, Connecticut. She had, her basement was all straight. She said, what I'll do is build you an apartment downstairs. And she said, but you have to pay rent until you pay off what was done. I said, that's fair. In the meantime, my mind is always going. In the meantime, just before moving there, we went and we bought land in, you know Westchester County at all?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In Greenberg off of A1A. It was across from one of the beautiful places there.
In Greenberg?
Pardon me?
In Greenberg?
In Greenberg.
Yeah.
But it was on A1A,
Mm-hmm.
and then it was all wooded, so they had all the lots, as to when. So we picked up one lot. It was mostly a lot of room in the back, so of course we like to entertain and do things, and there was not that much in the front, which we didn't care, but it was still like 100 or so. So we bought that.
You built a home on it? Did you build a home on it?
Well, eventually we had no money. This was all with a lot of nerve.
That's the case,
And so we went and while I was at my sister Tony's, we paid off the land. And so we went, and then they all bought stuff. People, this is making me nervous to taking all of this. They all built homes. They were all young people,
Mm-hmm.
not all young, but
Like yourself.
all the young people were buying these. They're not prefab, but they were pieces made like the fronts and the backs,
Yeah.
and a Squire Houser in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
So we went to look at it, and we were impressed. I said, we could do this, So my godmother, whose son-in-law was a builder, and she asked us to go there for dinner, and we did, and she says, they said they're going to build the base of the house and you do the finishing touches. Well, I didn't want that. But she wouldn't hear of me not having something nice because, well, she loved me. She was my godmother. And in fact, the day that my mother passed away, she came over the house, and we were in tears naturally. And she said that she had a dream of my mother. And she had her hands behind her back, my mother. And she said, I have something for you. And she said, and my mother said, what do you have? She took her out, and it was me. So that impressed her.
I love it. Wonderful. Any tissues or something?
Oh.
Tissue maybe?
So I want you to come over to dinner. Well, we were close anyway. My godmother was
Sounds like
a lovely, lovely lady.
Sounds like it.
And so when we went to dinner at the daughter's house, he said that he would build the shell like it was supposed to be, and we did the basement, and we.
Is that where you wound up living and raising a family? In Greenberg? How nice.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, yeah, in case you
How
didn't.
nice that. And
And Greenberg, but then the schools, we were supposed to go to Ardsley schools, and when the schools were going, Ardsley schools were not available because they were all full.
Mm-hmm.
So we went all over the whole area looking for schools, and some of them were closing certain classes. It was a very bad time in those days for schooling for the children. So we ended up putting the house up for sale because the schools were bad. I didn't want my children to go to
Well, how long did you live in that house?
How long did I live in? A couple of years.
A couple of years, and then you said, okay, the schools are not right.
Yes.
And so what, you sold it, and where did you move to?
Then we moved to, well, we couldn't find a place, so what we did was move to the apartment in New Rochelle, right near the beach. So we'd go to the beach, the kids would have it, would be like a vacation place. But yet they went to school. And Bruce went to a proto school, and Tanya went to public school, because she already started in the public school. If I gave her a choice, she could have gone anywhere.
Did you name your daughter after her aunt? Because you had a sister who was Antoinette?
Well, no, she was born on St. Anthony's Day.
Oh, I see.
She was supposed to be Michelle, but I didn't go that way. And so Bruce was named because of Bruce. I don't know what I was saying.
Well, so you have two. So you have the first daughter, and then you have a son. And as is the case, time passes, and they get older, and they meet a wife and a husband, and you have two grandchildren. And who are you? So your two grandchildren are. Who are you? Can you name your two grandchildren?
Yes, Stacy and Kevin.
Stacy and Kevin. And do you remember any thoughts or feelings about, or was there a different feeling for you being a mother or a grandmother? Do you anything come to mind of what it was like when?
I was thrilled to be a mother, thrilled. I was thrilled with Tanya. And I had wonderful children. Wonderful. We never went away without them for almost 20 years, 18. They used to go away to camp. Tony used to go to camp with Girl Scout. Bruce didn't care for it because it was different things. He went a couple of times. And then we sent him to near us, we used to do a project at the house whenever they left. When they got back, we all went on vacation, the three of us together, anywhere. We used to go a cabin, had a lot of water, that's what they loved.
So it was a very closely knit family.
Very close.
Now, when you were...
Well, the thing is, I wanted to be with my children. My children meant a lot to me.
Sure. So when they got married...
Yeah. What about it?
How did you find the woman your son chose and the man your daughter chose? Were you happy with it?
He chose a girl. He got married. He doesn't have any children. But he has helped many young girls and boys. He ended up being a policeman in New Rochelle. He was honored many times.
Wow.
And he had a benefit. I think the last time it was we went, they couldn't believe the parents who came to me. And that to me is having children.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very emotional time.
Now, didn't he work with children, though, outside of just the police? Didn't he do a lot of
And
stuff
then
with kids?
he went to produce school, and there was a man who came in to help the boys with sports. But then he retired, so Bruce took over that job too.
Wonderful. Now,
And now Bruce is in charge of all the schools in New Rochelle, safety and cleaning and all that.
wow, I like I said, I lived 20 years in New Rochelle.
Do you know?
I might have. I think I actually went to a couple of the fundraisers for the Boys and Girls Club of New
Did you
Rochelle.
ever see? I have pictures. Did you ever see a policeman stop and all the children were around him?
Extraordinary tall guy.
Oh yeah, very tall.
Yeah.
I remember him wanting to go down to Iona. We didn't live too far from Iona.
Yeah, Iona, sure.
So he said he would go down there, and there were the Christian brothers teaching there. And I said, Bruce, I don't know whether you should go there. It wasn't that far from me, but he was young. And he said, oh, Mom, you know I like to go there. And whenever he said that, that always hurt. I mean, I felt so sad that I had to say don't go. I said, okay. I said, Bruce, just please be careful. And I was a nervous wreck until he got home again. But he was good. He wasn't a troublemaker, you know.
So you were not a strict disciplinarian as a mother? I mean, you.
Oh, I was strict.
You were?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, not that strict. I was strict.
Well, you had your rules and
Yes.
that needed to follow. Well, how
I
about?
was good. I had good children.
Were you the disciplinarian in the house or your husband?
I was. My husband worked most of the time.
So here we are. We're at a point now of you've reached a.
I couldn't have any more children. Otherwise, I would have.
Yeah, it sounded like you wanted to do be
I
a mother
know,
over and over again.
After they were married and whatever, we were talking about adopting a child. It didn't matter what it was, just a child. And then everything, you know.
So you were a very maternal person.
Oh, yeah.
You wanted to be a
I
mother.
love children. I was close to all my nieces and nephews.
And you know, yeah, I don't want to go into deep analysis here. This is not the place for it. But you know, you are a very strong person.
Oh my God.
I will tell you that. For a child of 13 to lose their mother and father within the realm of months, you survived to this beautiful age of 91, going to be 92, and it seems to have had a very nice life, a good life, a loving life, a caring life.
Well, when I missed my parents, and then when I was in high school, my sisters gave me clothes to wear, okay? But it was not my clothes that I would have picked. So I ended up making my own clothes.
So your sisters, I mean, once your parents died, like you say, the family stayed fairly close, and the sisters almost became like a substitute mother in a way, or your aunt did. Your aunt did. So you stayed close to your siblings, or
Oh yeah, we were all close.
Or you all shared such a.
My brother taught me how to drive, and the older brother. And I would always go up and tell him where it would be. And so then I remember the last time I asked him that. And my husband was very friendly with my brother, and he was always up there. And when I would go up there, whenever went out, I would always tell my brother I was going out and where I was going. And when I'd open the door, would be very rude. I would be extremely rude. I'd see my husband there, my future husband, and I would just about grunt instead of saying hello.
So, you know, we've been talking for quite a while. I just want to kind of ease into the now, where we are now.
Sure.
You're beautiful 91-year-old woman. Time, you have a lovely family.
Yeah.
What is there anything that you've experienced, or that your life has been in a way, the life experience that you've had, that you might extend to your grandchildren right now? To say to them thoughts possibly, or whatever. There's no right or wrong answers here. It's just, is there anything you might like to express? Because again, this video is for them. You know, life gets to a point where, you know, we're not, you know, like I said before, I'm in denial. I don't want to, you know, but we're all getting older and older.
I tell you, I got involved in tennis here. In fact, I might have it there. After I lost my brother, my older brother, it affected me very, very. I went up to north, and I couldn't stay. I came right home. And before then, because being that my husband was working, I didn't know anybody here. I said I had to learn a sport and get out, because this is driving me crazy. So the day that I got home, that was the next day after I got home after my brother's funeral, Carmen got a phone call, and he says, oh, she can't come to the phone right now. And I asked who it was, and they said it was the sports, whatever. And I said, I'll talk to them. I had to do something, otherwise I'd go nuts. I'll talk to them, and they said about learning to play tennis. I said, okay, I'll be there. I couldn't stay long, but I don't think I stayed more than 10 minutes, but at least I was there. It was a start. And then I went home, and then I continued to do that, and that was the best thing I could have done.
It was a lesson in a way when when you were feeling low and not feeling good about things that was going on, that it's important to turn to something that you can enjoy, which was tennis in that case, and take your mind off of it.
And in fact, I couldn't believe that they had no parks in Naples. They only had one, which was Fleischmann's. I said, with all these children, that's sinful. So they started, there were 400 members we were in tennis. So she put me to run for tennis, for president. I said, no, I don't want to be president. So they did nothing that year. This girl that was there, she didn't do anything. So then the following year, I decided to be president so I could get some parks built. Try anyway.
Here in Naples. How did you get to Naples, and when did you arrive in Naples?
My husband was stationed in Marco Island.
During what year? Do you recall?
In the 40s, I
In the
guess. I don't know.
40s. So you were aware of this area of Marco Island,
Yeah.
Naples, in 19...
We checked it out in 1959.
So is that when you came down?
No, he didn't want to stay in 59. And
I don't blame him. This place must have been not much going on
Oh,
here.
we came down in the 60s.
Uh-huh.
And then we bought our house in 69.
That was a good time to come to Naples,
Yeah.
1969.
It was nice. It was so different than the way it is now.
I bet.
I loved it. It was great.
So in 69, when you came down to Naples, was your husband still working or retired? What was the...
Oh, he was
you were
working.
still working.
Yeah.
And you were still based...
Then I went to play tennis, and that's how I got involved with that,
Yeah.
and went to advisory board meetings every month, so that they could pass this, and they passed it, and they just passed it. I could work at it, and so we went to the sports office there to make phone calls, but then we realized that was a list of residents. They had no list of voters. So it was all new. They had to get a list of voters so that we could make these phone calls. We had 400 members. We must have reached practically all of them.
That's fabulous. That's fabulous.
And so it was a $800 million Kevin, Scott, you see a white paper under there? It
Yeah.
used to be there. I don't know if it's still there.
There's Avon Cup, see?
Yeah, at the bottom. Yeah, that's it.
Oh,
And so we passed an $800 million referendum to pass this for Sparks. And the manager of Naples said that will never pass.
Wow. Wow, Mary. That is, like I said to you earlier, you are a very strong and determined woman, person.
Not really.
I
So I learned
think
to play tennis here. I didn't know how to play tennis.
Well, I'm getting away from the tennis. I want to ask you, how did you feel? Or do you remember when you heard of your oldest granddaughter being born? Do you remember?
Oh my God.
Where were you? Do you remember that? Or
You mean Stacy? I
Yeah,
remember
Miss Stacy.
every minute of it.
where were you?
I was here. I was up north.
You were up north. Your daughter was giving birth, and you.
I was right in Stanford where she was born, waiting for her. And it was Christmas Eve that Tony never wanted to have a baby at Christmas Eve because that's her favorite time. And that's where she gets all of this stuff that she likes to eat. Tony is...
Your daughter.
Yeah, my daughter. So we went there. She was such a beautiful, beautiful as beautiful as she is now.
I bet you, I'm sure she was. Was she born with hair? Because she's got beautiful hair.
She has beautiful everything. And also she has a beautiful mind, she has a beautiful manners, she's beautiful in every way.
You're very proud of her.
Isn't that awful for me saying?
Not at all.
Talking about-
Now let's go to your grandson. Do you remember when
oh yeah, same way. He's adorable too. He was a hyper child. But what he was a dyslexic child. So therefore, that's why he was a hyper child.
Uh-huh.
See, people don't understand dyslexic.
Yeah, my wife was dyslexic.
And now he is he got a license for what is it, Scott?
Captain?
Captain.
He's captain's license, drive his
And the
boat.
test he took, he passed it.
For the cat,
And he's a dyslexic boy. He
yeah.
learned everything by television, right, Pat?
A lot of it was
Yeah.
easier, yeah, because he didn't make out what he was reading
You
so
can
much.
talk about any subject.
My wife's mother, through high school, would read her homework and read her the books, because my wife was a bright woman, just cannot read, the dyslexia.
She does pretty well.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Well, he's got a grandmother who was a determined woman and a determined person. He sounds pretty determined.
I'm not that determined. I have a lot of friends that help me. Friends and their mothers, their parents help me.
When you were younger.
You
Yeah.
know, when they had mother and daughter go dinners and stuff, their mothers would always talk me into going, you're our second child and stuff. They were very good to me.
It sounds like it. It sounds like it.
We got some stuff to
You
work
heard
with.
enough
That
about me now?
It's been wonderful hearing about you. And it's been a pleasure meeting you.
Thank you. There was a lot of, whatever, but this is mainly what you live for, what you think about.